Awesome. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us on the sixth episode of our summer webinar series. And this week, we've got the fantastic Danny Thompson, who is running the Music Factory out in California. And unfortunately, Brian couldn't be here today, but Danny can definitely handle this topic. I brought them in specifically because they've got a new podcast all about online education and things like that. They are literally experts in this field. They have one of the best online programs that I've seen, and Danny, really knows what he's doing in this area. So I figured this would be a great topic for everybody, seeing as Musi is primarily an online platform, and Danny, of course, is a user of the platform. But I just wanted to, introduce Danny, and I'll let him kind of take it on from here. But thanks, Danny, for showing up and doing this for us.
My pleasure. I love doing this stuff. You know how much I love to talk about business and marketing. And today we're going to talk about a little bit of both. So just to give everybody kind of a rundown, I'm going to talk a little bit about some changes in your teaching style, maybe, or procedural things that Brian and I have sort of noticed over time. Then I'm going to go through some tech stuff that I think is real easy, but will just make your lessons go to the next level. And then I've got a super easy marketing tip or little thing you can do on Instagram that I'm getting really good, fun results with. Actually, I'll give you two. Yeah, let me just jump right in to a little bit of the teaching stuff. And, full disclosure, I don't really do any teaching. I haven't taught for many, many years. The business stuff and the marketing is what I love the most. But Brian and I just did a podcast on this subject, and I encourage you to listen to it because it will be a deeper dive into what I'm going to talk about. And Brian is really an expert in this area. So like Sam mentioned, Brian and I started a new podcast. It's called Online Music Lesson Business Academy. If you ever listened to my old podcast, it was Music Lesson Business Academy. It's on the same feed. So, and our goal there is really to just focus in on this one area in music lessons that we think is kind of like the emerging down the road. I feel for at least a lot of the instruments will be a dominant way that we deliver music lessons. And there's so many topics related to this that we could go in many directions. So I will try to keep it a little bit more on point. So as far as the teaching style, one of the reasons that Brian and I kind of thought about, we really need to talk about this stuff. We need to really put it out there is, we're in a lot of the forums and Facebook groups and things like that. And I see questions even in the Musi group that alerted me that people need to understand this couple of things that they really want to change in their lesson approach. And as great as Musi is, and I know Sam has talked about this, but the technology may never get to the point where we can totally 100% play along with each other, or really like duet style or anything like that. And so occasionally we will see those comments of, I'm playing, my student is trying to sing back to me and I can't really hear it, or it's compressed. And as good as this technology has gotten to, it does not work well when there are two competing signals jumping on each other. And that's what will cause compression and things like that. And that's what you're hearing. And this seems like this is easy, but this does create a couple of changes in your teaching style. And, for example, so many drum teachers, if we think about analog lessons, quite often drum teachers, I'll catch them just jamming along on drum kits, them and their student. Guitar lessons, for sure, in the analog environment, the guitar teacher does a lot of playing. And what we've sort of uncovered is this might actually be a really big benefit to virtual lessons. So here's a great example of a change that you might need to make. You've had this guitar student for, 8 months or whatever, and you're working on the 12-bar blues, and this student has now been working on scales so they can start to learn about lead guitar playing over this 12-bar blues. Pretty common thing you're going to do with a late beginner student. And in the old days, the guitar teacher would probably go, okay, I'm going to play the chords for the 12-bar blues. Now play that scale over the top and let's turn that into a lead. And, due to the internet lag and due to compression, that is not going to work in a virtual environment. So we all know that there's clips that you can use in Musing. That's a great way to get around it. But here is the big change that Brian really kind of came around to, that I think is, maybe a silver lining or a hidden gem in how we teach. And so what he does is he makes the student create the backing track to play that scale to. So, using clips or just recording or doing a looping thing, has the student create the backing music and then play the scale over the top. And yes, that might take a little bit longer, but the benefit of having the student have to put that all together is, much better than what we used to do, which is a lot of playing ourselves. And so that is one of the biggest elements that we see in how you deliver or have to change your teaching style. So depending on the instrument that you're trying to teach online, you're going to have to think about these things. Think about, every voice lesson, right? The warm-ups. We need to think about, well, what's a more efficient way of doing that in the virtual environment? And why do I care about this? Because when the virtual lesson thing kind of got forced on the world, people did all these things, the best they knew how. They didn't know how to use the tech. They didn't really make these changes. So the viewpoint of so many parents and so many people is that virtual lessons aren't as good as online or as analog lessons. So we need to make these adjustments so that we are providing something that is equal to, or in my opinion, for certain instruments, probably better, right, than analog lessons used to be. So, if you're a voice teacher, maybe you need to have all of that stuff pre-recorded, a whole bunch of different vocal warm-ups and exercises, because you're not really going to be on your side able to do all the normal piano playing or accompaniment that you may have done in the past, and then have the student, sing over that accompaniment. You're going to need to play that accompaniment as a clip, boom, and send it to the student, and then listen back. And again, this sounds like a no-brainer, but when I talk to teachers who've been teaching online, these are the things that kind of come up. And we all know this, right? And this isn't a smackdown to teachers. We're all this way. We tend to go to the easiest thing, the path of least resistance. And the path of least resistance is doing it the way you've always done it. That's why I'll see a drum teacher in there just playing a beat, the students playing a beat with them, and they're jamming. That's a teacher that doesn't have a plan, that doesn't have it planned out what they were going to do. They ran out of something to teach that day. And this is really, really common, what we call winging it. And so in this virtual environment, you do need to have more thought, more pre-thought, and more pre-planning, right, in how you teach. So those are just a couple things. Let me look at my glasses here. I was telling Sam, I went on a morning bike ride, which usually I'm a late in the day workout. I went for a morning bike ride, and my regular reading glasses fell out of my little bag at some point. So I've got these readers, and it's a little hard to read. Okay, so what I would recommend is to check out the podcast to get a much more deep dive on how Brian explains a few of these changes. We also talk about, how are we going to combat, in this environment, you're not really doing the recitals and things like that. And Brian has kind of created a whole, host of ways of engaging a student through different games, pre-recorded things like that, exercises, a 30-day guitar challenge, these different kind of things to take the place of those live recitals that maybe they were used to doing. So let me, Sam, do you got any, you want to chime in at all before I move on to the tech stuff? Or does anyone have a question about this before I move to tech?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I completely agree. I think that having a plan is crucial. Giving your students more control. That's a big part of how we've designed Musi, is allowing the students to engage as much as possible when you're online. Like the whiteboard's a good example for that, right? Yeah. Like instead of you just filling out the sheet and showing them, they can actually move the elements on the screen. They can actually interact with it with clips. They can record both the backing track and the front, the melody. And that I think is vital because, like you said, once you're in the online space, like a real duet online will never happen. Until we create super internet, that's just it's just the physics says right. No. And I think that's something that obviously it upsets people, but it's not a deal breaker. And if anything, like you're saying, you can use some of these tools and some of these techniques to actually amplify online lessons to a level that wasn't even achievable in person. And I think we even saw it during COVID with just general learning, where some students really strived on having more control and having more input in being more active instead of passive. So I think you're dead on. I mean, this is exactly the stuff that we try to preach.
Yeah. And again, Brian is really the expert on this stuff, and he goes much deeper into that in this podcast episode. It made me think a little bit about my drum instructor I had when I was, younger. And, sometimes I'd bring him in like a song or a drum fill from like this Police song, and it's just too often what I see when I check in on a lesson, right? I used to do this all the time in the analog world. I'd sit in on a lesson, and when I get done, I'd be to talk to the teacher, and I'd say, God, you played guitar for like 10 minutes straight right there, trying to demonstrate, or the drum teacher would just play that drum fill. And I remember my drum teacher saying, okay, let's take the music paper out. Why don't you try your best to write out that drum fill for me? And he forced me to now eventually he'd go, this is how it goes. And here's where you were mistaken in your tablet writing of your tablature of that drum part. But I think in this virtual environment, it forces teachers, if you decide to, it forces you to make the student do much more than we used to. We do, in general, music teachers in the analog environment do way, way too much playing. Way too much playing.
I completely agree. I think that's exactly the thing that online kind of pushes you towards, is you can't just rely on, let me demo this 10 times in a row until you understand it, which I'm not so sure actually works anyway. Right. And this is the, let me play it for you. Now let me help you figure it out. There's a good methodology that's, I can't remember who came up with it, but it's called I do, we do, you do. And so the idea is, I'll demo the thing, then we together will work through the thing, and then you do the thing. And that kind of methodology works so much better online, because I'll demo it, I'll help you kind of figure out the parts that maybe you haven't understood yet, and then it's up to you to really turn it into your own thing. Yeah.
One of the things that Brian and I down the road are going to put together is going to be like a ton of resources for virtual teaching. And this could include like all kind of pre-recorded videos, or, maybe all of the potential voice, warm-ups that you might do, and all the different keys that you think you might need, to basically give that to the student, because again, we want the student to be doing this stuff when they're not on their lesson. And if they don't, have that ability to do those things without you, we're missing this huge opportunity. The real gain that a student makes isn't during the lesson. It's what they do during the week. That, we're just here. We're really just, like you said, we're talking about a concept. We're explaining that concept to the student. We're demonstrating it. We're having the student demonstrate it back to acknowledge that they understand it. Then we make a great homework assignment and send them on their way. And so I just think that one of the biggest changes you as a teacher could think about is how to maximize this environment slightly different than you used to maximize an analog environment. And these are all nice things to also have in your toolbox to be able to explain to a customer, to get maybe overcome some resistance to wanting to do online lessons, to be able to just say to them, I've been teaching for 20 years, and music teachers in the past do way too much just playing, right? And in this environment, the student really has to step up, and getting them to kind of maybe have a little bit of that aha moment regarding why this can be a better learning environment.
Completely agree. I completely agree. I think this is and like you're saying, having the content as well, and like, of course, as you know, that's sort of the foundation of how music is designed, is that you can upload all those clips and recordings and have the student, access those anytime. Because like you're saying, any teacher who's worth their salt knows that the lesson isn't where the learning occurs. It's that 6 days between that it actually matters. So if you have all the content either preloaded or you make it on the fly, but you have it accessible to your students, then that makes it just that much easier for them to actually engage with it. And as we know, that is where everything actually happens. And if you spend your lesson allowing the student to play more and figure things out more, they'll have a more effective practice time, because they're not spending now the practice time trying to figure out how to play. Like, you know what I mean? You're kind of using the lesson time to get them comfortable with the thing instead of just demoing it over and over again. So when they actually go for practice time, they're repeating the things that they did in the lesson, which is way more effective.
Absolutely. Any questions from the gallery?
Yeah, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A tool. It's kind of it's on this. Well, at least for me, it's on the side. I think it's on the side for everyone, but
looks like it is.
Yeah, so just drop them in, and I'll try and back in if anyone pops up any questions there.
All right. Well, let me move on to the tech. This is the stuff I love. And again, when the world was forced into the online environment, of course, there was people doing lessons online prior to that. But, it's been a thrown together type of format for so many teachers, people trying to do it on their iPhone or using FaceTime or these different things. So it's wonderful that Sam came along with Musi to give us a tool that is really designed for music lessons. The stuff I'm going to cover is how you can take this from the basics to a whole just different level of quality. Okay. And Sam, if you could, maybe you could put a link into that video. It is on the Guitar Factory OC YouTube channel. Brian and I put that video up there. I took a guitar lesson. I'm a drummer. And you can see the quality level that the end result using the tools that we're going to talk about. So the first thing is, make sure for your internet connection, you are on an Ethernet cable. You can get that on Amazon for next to nothing. And it plugs into the back of your internet router, and then you plug that into your computer. Now, if you have any more of a modern laptop, it will not have an Ethernet connection anymore. However, you can get a little hub, like those hubs that plug in with the USB-C on the side of your computer. And then it's got card slots. It's got old school USB inputs. You can get those that have a Ethernet port. So you are not then relying on Wi-Fi. You are direct to your internet connection. So we want to provide that best signal flow as possible. And that is also a very easy thing to teach your students to do, is in their home setup, just get an Ethernet cable. I have a 50-footer that I used to run to my garage to do live streams, and it was maybe $20. So you could give one of these to every one of your students if you wanted to. So next, let's talk about the lighting a little bit. And one of the best things that you can do, if you go to YouTube and just search YouTube studio lighting or simple 3-light lighting for video, we want to use the same tools and techniques that videographers use and filmmakers use to light our environment for online lessons. And that's usually going to involve a front-facing light, what we would call a key light, right? And a good ring camera light can do fine. And then you might want to have a fill light, and that helps with some shadows and things like that. And then if you're going to do any kind of lighting in the background. One thing that'll help you with this is don't be too close to your background behind you. That makes for shadows and makes it a little harder to kind of create like a cool environment. And I want you to think about this. The first thing when that new student logs on to their first virtual lesson, what is the impression that we're going to make? And is it, we're in a bedroom? Is there laundry behind us on the bed? Whatever. Is it bad lighting? Versus logging on and it looks like a high quality YouTube video or a live streamer. And it instantly excites that student to be, interacting in this cooler environment and to see their teacher in this amazing environment. And this is so easy and very cheap to do. So get a good key light. Don't be too close to your back wall. And what generally works better is to have it darker in the room, right? So that back wall might even be kind of dark. And then your key light is primarily just lighting up you and your instrument. And, we want to make sure there's enough light to see our hands, things like that. Get some accent lighting and put that on those back walls. It is shocking what a $20, purple colored accent light casting a little hue in the back corner can do to your YouTube environment. Or to your online lesson environment. It's so simple and easy to do. You just have to think about it and put in some effort to do so. Now, along those same lines, again, check out YouTube. There's lots of tutorials there for the video and the lighting. A fun little thing that Brian's going to start doing, a great YouTuber that I watch, it's all about geography stuff. But one of the things that he always does, like every new video, he kind of has a little bit of album artwork kind of on the wall behind him. And it's always a different record. And so one of the things Brian's doing in his online teaching environment now is like, putting album art up, but just changing it all the time. So it's this constant changing thing. And just don't underestimate how important little details like that could be in the way that this thing looks. Okay. Now, continuing with the look, let's talk about cameras a little bit. You do want to invest in a decent webcam. You don't need to go, 35 millimeter Sony a6000 with a great lens and all that stuff. If you have that stuff, if you're into photography, you could use it. But even the hookup and the setup is a little more complicated with that. Good quality webcams now are amazing. And I would say the two that I like is Logitech or Elgato. Elgato face cam or a Logitech. Don't be fooled into buying a cheap substitute because there are $39 cameras that say HD 1080 HD, and they are in fact 1080 HD. But Sam does some photography and he knows this, and I'm kind of a camera geek and video geek. The glass is what makes the difference. The lens, we call that the glass, right? And the lens is what gives you that high quality. So Logitech 1080p or Elgato face cam, that's the high def 1080p. You don't need a 4K camera. You should at least have 2 cameras minimum for this, okay? Now, there's multiple ways of using 2 cameras for your switcher, depending on if you're a guitar teacher, piano teacher, whatever. One way is to use software that does camera switching. And it's kind of like you're overlaying that over the top of your music. You can use a free software called OBS, which will allow you to set up like picture in picture or different scenes, we would call it. So your OBS would have scene 1, scene 2, scene 3. And just with the click of the mouse, you could switch scenes. We use another software called, I got to think of it, Manicam. And that's what we were using before Musi existed. We kind of built everything around Manicam. And Manicam does the same thing. It allows you to run multiple webcams and have scenes. We can have our logo on the screen, play a video right from YouTube right on there. So you might want to think about overlaying one of those softwares on top of your Musi teaching. The other option is you can get an actual camera switcher, a small little switcher. You plug all your cameras into that, and then just with the flick of a button, you'd go from a full scene video to like this to, close up on the hand or whatever it is that you want to do. But these are easy things to do. Those cameras are maybe $100 to $125, not expensive. You really got to invest in this because, I am selling something to customers out there that I am saying is better than in-person lessons, right? And I'm primarily doing guitar and piano. Drums we do in person. It hurts me if there are virtual and online teachers out there doing it wrong, because it hurts all of us that impression of, look how crappy this looks and sounds, and I can't see what the teacher's doing. So it helps all of us if the quality level of all of us comes up with what we're doing. Okay. So we've talked about lighting your setup, and we've talked about good cameras. So let's talk about the audio now. So audio wise, you are going to want to use a USB mixer. Do not use a recording interface like, I can't think of any of the companies, little 2-channel recording interface. The reason being, a recording interface allows you to control input level, which is different than volume when you're listening to something. You got to remember that. A USB mixer allows you to affect input level as well as the output volume. And the concept here is we want to take all the audio that we might be utilizing inside our virtual teaching business. So it's my guitar, my voice, my track I'm going to play for the student that's on my iPhone, whatever. Everything goes into this mixer. So what we are sending now from the mixer into our computer through Musi out to the customer is a well-mixed signal of voice and music. All right. So this little mixer we use is called an Alesis Multi-Mix 4. I think they're $89. It's got 4 inputs. It's got headphones. You want to make sure that what you purchase is legitimately a USB mixer. And we tried different stuff to find the best thing. So this is something I would get from Sweetwater or wherever, where you can try it. And if it's not working right for you, send it back. So that's kind of the starting point, though, with that audio is a nice little mixer. And I've been saying that for years, and I still talk to people who are like, I've got a $10,000 recording interface. It's going to sound better. Yeah, for recording, it will. But again, for this environment, it's not the way to go. You want a little mixer. Okay. Now, the second thing is all of our teachers use broadcast quality headset mics. Now, these are a little pricey. They're like $200. We had to buy like 15 of them. Maybe they were $275 or something, I think. So it's good headphones, but it's a great microphone. So that's going to have 2 cables, one that goes into the mixer as a microphone, and then one that is your headphones. Okay. And all of that will work in this little Alesis multi-mix. Now, in addition to it sounding real nice, obviously it's great that if I'm teaching and I want to turn away volume like they do when you're using a microphone. So as you turn, the microphone turns, it's out of the way. It's amazing for teaching, and it looks totally pro. So we got the 4-channel mixer and the headset mic. For you guitar teachers, this is a key. Many of you probably already have cool guitar pedals or built-in, like a Kemper modeling amplifier, anything like that. You want to utilize that technology, right? So that, and you could even go with like an old school Line 6 pod. If you don't have anything, you could buy a used pod on eBay for next to nothing. So that your guitar tone, you've created a killer guitar tone. That's what goes into the mixer. And then that's what goes to the student. And by having the, a guitar processing unit, it allows you to now have different settings set up. So if you're working on a heavy metal song with a student, chunk one button, and you've got killer, great guitar tone, boom, different one. You've got great clean tone with some chorus on it or whatever it is. Again, you can't just go old school, have a little amplifier that's getting picked up by the microphone, or go direct from your guitar into the mixer. That's not going to sound good. So go into a guitar processor, then into the mixer. If you're teaching on acoustic, you want an acoustic electric. You can plug it into the mixer. You'd be better off going through a little bit of a guitar processor first into the mixer. If you have a nice acoustic guitar that is not currently have a built-in pickup, buy a pickup or take it to a guitar shop and have them put one in. That is really key to creating a great guitar sound. Let me hit my notes here. Mixer, headset, software switcher, guitar processing. Okay. So I think that's mostly it when it comes to sound. Obviously, keyboard, you can go direct into the mixer. Mix that great sound and then send that to your student. The other element that I would highly encourage you to do is do a test, right? You want to see what this looks and sounds like on someone else's computer who's taking a lesson from you. So Brian and I even said it on the podcast. If you want to contact us and have us jump on a lesson with you, we'll walk you through like what you need to fix, right? Because it's going to probably sound a little bit different. So you could get on with me and I could say, okay, it sounds really good. I'd like to be able to hear your voice a little bit better. Let's bring that up. Okay, your gain's too high. Bring your gain down, bring your regular volume up. Okay, let me hear you play a song and sing it, or let's hear some guitar, do a thing, and really dial it in. Because once you have it set, don't mess with the knobs too much. It should be pretty awesome for every lesson moving forward. That's it on the tech for the most part. Sam, you got any questions?
I just wanted to ask, do you know which headsets you guys use?
No, but I could get that for you, and we could post that somewhere.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Just because I know that's a common question, and I just to reiterate, I completely agree. I have the Pod HD 500, which is the floorboard model.
Yeah,
it's
there you
still
go.
under my desk. I've had that thing for 15 years, I think. It works perfectly fine. Of course, we used to have an Axe Effects, which is, the king of processors. But I find this thing to be perfect because I stand when I teach. So I can tap my pedals under my desk. So I can just step back, play my thing. We're doing some heavy metal riffs. Great. Right. I step forward. I've got my clean sound. Now it's clean. And again, it runs directly through the mixer straight into the channel. And as you mentioned, for piano teachers, a digital piano is essentially the same concept there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I completely agree.
And again, on the, slightly off topic, but on the sales side of things, right? Again, we have challenges, like we have to overcome some things, right? In the perception of online music lessons, right? Yeah. So I tell parents, I guarantee you that my virtual lesson looks and sounds better than what you're going to get in the back room at that music store. I know, because I ran that place for 20 years. It's going to be a small room with gray walls. Maybe they put some, music notes on the wall. The guy's playing guitar out of a little Squire 15 amp. Maybe there's good air conditioning and ventilation. With good lighting, multiple cameras to see my hands, whatever, that's a whole nother thing. This sounds better. This looks better, So, and so having like I send people that demo video of me and Brian, and I go, check this out. I guarantee you, there's no way you expect it to be like, I'm going to send this to you, then I'll call you back or something, because there's no way it's what you think a virtual lesson is going to be like, and so we have to deliver. Everybody has to deliver. And again, if there's people out there not delivering, it hurts me. It doesn't help me. It hurts my business, because we're perpetuating what people already think about online lessons. And that's a key thing we got to move away from. So I'm really putting it out there, especially with our guitar lesson. I guarantee you our guitar lesson online is better than what the competitor can do in person.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I've shared that link to that video for everyone too. And I've been pasting links to all these things you've been talking about in the side thing over there, so people can check everything out. But I mean, do watch that YouTube video.
Don't make fun of my singing or guitar playing. Let me qualify this. I'm a professional drummer. Okay. And my band, we were doing like a VIP event, and I saw it said acoustic show, and our singer, I texted him. I go, hey, are we doing like our old acoustic set? And I used to like play percussion and stuff. And it was so easy. I'd be drinking wine back there, just like a shaker, like, this is great. And he's like, no, everybody in the band is going to play and sing 3 songs, including you. I'm like, what? I go, I know, like, I know the basic open chords, and I sing background vocals. I can do it, but I've never played guitar and sang in front of people.
Yeah.
Even at an open mic, let alone, there was about 800 people there, So, I took a guitar lesson with Brian.
There you go.
And you know what? Here's something that came up in that lesson that I never really thought of. And now I use it with parents all the time. I'm showing Brian what I'm doing, and he was like, okay, hey, one thing, when you do the D chord, be careful. Like, you need to mute this string. Right. I can hear you're hitting one extra, the one extra string there. He doesn't need to see me to teach me. Right. Yeah. Because parents are always like, well, how do you, like, can you tell if I'm fingering the thing? Yeah. I don't even listen, as a professional drummer, from 20 feet away, I can tell if your technique sucks. Yeah. Like, I don't need to see you. You think that because you're not a professional.
Yes.
Right. Brian didn't need to see me fingering that chord. I mean, he could see me just fine, but he didn't need, he's like, I know exactly what you're doing wrong from the sound of it, And it's like, parents don't know that. They don't think that way. We have to teach them those things.
No, I actually agree with that. That's one of those things that is interesting, is literally being like, like, I understand this topic so well that I literally don't need to see you in order to evaluate you. And then, but the fact that I can see you now gives me even a leg up on top of that. And I was going to say, with Brian's sort of video quality and the setup that he's got in that studio, especially in the YouTube video there, it's like, it feels so in person, even though he's on the, it's like with the headset and the lighting and like the being able to zoom in on his hand to get really detailed look on the chords versus zooming out and seeing himself. Those kinds of things, I think, just do take it to the next level. And this is something we try to stress to teachers all the time, is like, remember, you are a professional teacher. It's you utilize those skills. It's like, you do have all the training you need. It's all in there. You've just got to come up with maybe a couple of different ways of pulling it out so that it actually is more effective. But, I see a lot of teachers being like, oh, I'm going to need to be retrained, or I'm going to need to, it's like, not necessarily. Like, there'll be a few tweaks that you've got to change. But you've got it inside of you. If you're a competent teacher, you should really be able to teach a lesson with your eyes closed. So it really shouldn't make much of a difference if it's online or in person.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One of the other little tools that I always want to talk about with a parent, especially, and I'm focusing a lot on guitar lessons. I mean, I'll be honest. We kind of feel like that's the real kicker, like, as far as dominating, is guitar lessons online can be way better than in person. I also think piano can be. as well. Drums is a little tougher, and we haven't tried to go there. I think if a teacher gets good with the pre-recorded tools, no reason you can't do great voice lessons. One of my kind of acquaintance of mine, John Henney, ran a real high quality voice studio up in LA. He's had like celebrity clients, and he's the real deal. He's wrote a bunch of books. He's all, his whole thing is courses and online now, and
sorry, I was going to say for singing teachers, we have a guy called Tom McKinney who was Beyonce's vocal coach.
Oh, cool.
And he's done, kind of like you said, like list the celebrities, and he'll have worked with them. And he's exclusively online through music and does the pre-recorded tracks and does all of the training. And his wife even does stage presence, lessons while they're doing the singing. So,
I got to get him for an interview on the podcast for sure.
Oh yeah, he'd be great. You guys would hit it off.
And again, we are just, we're going through an arc, right? Mm-hmm. And some of that arc is, I talk to 40-year-old people who want guitar lessons who are like, I'm terrible with a computer, and I'm like, oh my God, like this is something I didn't really think about.
Yeah.
Well, eventually that's not going to be the case, because those people are aging out, so we're getting past that. The quality level is just getting better and better and better. People are, doing psychology diagnoses online.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, if they can do that, I can teach you guitar, dude. Don't
telehealth is one of the fastest growing industries in the world right now. It's like, if I can get my doctor appointment online, then I'm pretty sure we can do some music lessons online too.
And again, so these are just, people just aren't aware of like what it's going to be, how good it can be, and that's the challenge for us. I, in a way, feel like I'm, here's the age-old challenge that you're up against a little bit. What people want versus what they need.
Yeah.
And I'm telling I'll get a call from an adult who wants guitar lessons, and he's like, I don't think I want online, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I know what you're saying. Just keep in mind, I'm a professional musician. Like, I make records and stuff. I've owned a music school for 20 years now. I've hired and trained all these teachers. I've coached other music schools, blah, blah, blah. I know how it is out there. And I'm telling you, this is better, and they're like, nah, and it's like, wow, would you, I'm the expert and you're telling me that better, So they think they know what they, it's always a challenge to, you have two ways to go in business. One is to just give people what they want, right?
Right.
The other is, but what if what they want is wrong?
Right. Show them what they need.
So we're a little bit like Apple or something, who's like, hey, you need an iPod. And everyone's like, what the hell's an iPod?
Right.
We're like a little bit in that stage, and that's a tough place to be. So to make your marketing easier, to make it easier, make all these things we talked about today, especially the tech stuff, make it super, super good.
Completely agree.
Awesome. If there's no questions, I will give you everybody just a killer marketing thing they can do.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay. Here we go. Yeah. Okay. So everybody's probably familiar with making reels for Instagram, right?
I love your reels.
And, you tag your buddy, or you tag, the guitar company you're playing, hoping they're going to pay attention to you, or whatever it might be. What you're going to do instead is you're going to create what are called collaborative reels. Okay. Now, let's give an example here. You're a music school owner in your community. I bet that there is like a cafe you guys like to eat at, or a cool store in your plaza you like to go to, or anything like that, right? So obviously you're not doing this with a competing music school. You're doing it with complementary businesses. Just go to that coffee shop, and you can do this with your iPhone. The quality doesn't have to be through the roof. Just shoot it on your iPhone and make a reel about their business, not your business. Make a reel about that coffee shop and say, hey, it's Danny from the Music Factory. I'm down here at XYZ Sam's Coffee. We love this place. This is where me and my teachers come all the time. Let me tell you about it. Let me show it to you. Boom, shoot some stuff. Throw it into some, CapCut or Video Leap little app on your phone, and make a cool reel about that coffee shop. Post that on your page and invite the coffee shop to collaborate on the reel. Now, they're not all going to do it for sure. Either A, they don't know what that means and they're scared of it, or they just don't get why it would be cool. But if they collaborate with you on the reel, your reel is now shown to all of their followers, which is much different than tagging somebody in a reel. And I've been doing this with, I have another podcast. I've got 3 podcasts going now, called Highway 62. And it's all about businesses and artists and just cool stories out in the Joshua Tree area, which is where I live. So I'm talking to actors and musicians who live out there, old timers who are 90 years old, have been, they're gold miners from out there, just like the craziest stories and all this cool stuff. But part of what I've been doing is like, I'll go to a new business that maybe I'm going to interview, and I'll make a cool reel for them and post it on my Highway 62 page, collaborate with them, and boom, 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 boom. I get like, we get massive, plays of that video and stuff. I did one that just kind of showed the downtown of where I live out there in 29 Palms, and did a cool voiceover using AI, highlighted a few businesses in there, and I invited I think you can only invite 4 collaborators. I invited 4 to collaborate, 2 did. That video got like 30,000 views or something like that. And I'm doing it with my podcast out there to build the Instagram following so that the podcast gets more traction. But if you do something like that with a complementary business near you, now those people might be following you, and boom, ultimately, hopefully that turns into a customer for you. It's real easy. It doesn't cost anything. Anyone can do it. You don't need a bunch of tech skills. I think it's kind of an under the radar kind of little tool to use. That's $1 million idea for free right there.
I completely agree. So, we just did a collaborative reel a couple weeks ago. So if you go look on the Musi page, the most recent reel is Danny and Brian talking about their online lessons from the podcast. And it's in collaboration with the Musi account. Because obviously they're referencing, using the tech and everything. And I'm not even, I'm not in the podcast or anything. It's just them doing their thing. But it makes perfect sense for both of us, right, to have that reel up. For you,
right. Why wouldn't you, as a business owner, if somebody made a reel going, this is my favorite coffee shop, why wouldn't you want other people to see that?
Exactly. It's silly, it's like from my point of view as like the business owner side, like it's so obvious. I'm like, I want people to see that these are real people who have used our product, who not only like what we do, but are taking this to another level to sort of show the brand integrity that Musi presents. And so that is a boon to us. And then, like, if I'm on a guest on a podcast, that's another time that we'll do a collaborative reel where the reel might be me and the person talking, and we post it as a collaborative reel, so it goes to both audiences. So it's not just me posting and then them posting.
Exactly.
I completely agree. And those reels that are collaborative have 20 times more views than the ones that aren't. It's definitely an underutilized, and it's so easy to do.
It's so easy to do. And, and don't get discouraged if, I think the one that I sent out to 4 businesses, only 2 of them accepted the collaboration. Right. And it's just, people don't see it, or they're busy, or they don't get it, or whatever. Just keep doing it. It's even something you could talk to a business owner about and go, hey, I want to make a cool reel about your business and do a collaborative thing. Would you be down for that? And that way they might let you come in and film some more interesting stuff, or get somebody on camera, which I did with, a new coffee shop in my area. Got the owner on camera talking about it. And he was shocked at how much traction we got on that reel, and again, it's just so easy to do,
Yeah, it really is sort of a no-brainer. And especially as teachers, we're posting reels all the time, and you might be, and you might be posting a reel about like the curriculum you're using. Well, reach out to the manufacturer and see if you don't even have to you can
never know
collaborate with, and they'll see it. And if they want to collaborate, they just click OK.
Yeah.
And like you said, some people might not know what it is. So, that's fine too, So
here's, I was thinking about it before the webinar today. Here's another way you could do it. Music, I see I follow a lot of music school accounts, or they follow, a lot of them follow the Music Factory is more the case. And I see people posting reels of students performing or playing, right? Just make a reel of, your student you had today, or make a little recording of every single student at your next event, right? Make each one of them its own reel and invite the parents to collaborate on the reel. It's that simple. It's that simple. Again, a lot of them won't know what it is, but if half of them do it, a percentage of them will do it. All of their friends at their school and then the soccer team and all that see the reel. Now, just because I always get pushed back about filming students or whatever, in your, just do it this way. I'm telling you, in your paperwork that you do, you're going down the list of policies, just have a line that says, we quite often photograph and film students for promotional reasons, blah, blah, blah. Most people, they don't read any of the policy stuff anyway. They'll just sign it. If you make a big deal out of it, they will make a big deal out of it. Don't have a separate sheet for it. Don't make it a big deal. I've been doing it for 20 years. I've one time had a parent be like, hey, blah, 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 blah. And the only reason they questioned it is because they actually had a Instagram business going with their kid as an influencer that was killing it. So they wanted to be like kind of on top of anything that got posted with their, and I was like, totally get it.
Yeah.
Most people are not going to have, like, if somebody has an issue, go, oh, no problem. It is in the contract you signed, but no problem. I'll take that one down for you. Piece of cake. Yeah. That's it. Don't get all, oh, I'm going to get sued or nothing.
Yeah.
It'll never happen.
Yeah.
There's, nothing to worry about, but do it with parents. All of the other moms that mom has on their Instagram will see it. It's awesome.
It really is. It's like a self-fulfilling network, really.
Yeah.
And we all know referrals are really the secret to, kind of keeping your lessons consistent and everything. So,
yeah.
And
all right.
So, it's that's basically like a instant referral in a way, because it's like, it's the parents, kind of showing, oh, look at how great my student is in their lessons. And it's linked directly to your business account. So the person who's watching it just goes, oh, what school is that? And then they click on it and they're immediately on your page. And if you've got a whole bunch of other reels of other students, the new parent is going, oh, well, look at this. Like, they've got a whole, they're doing their thing. They're teaching all these kids. Can my kid get involved in that? And, it's a completely free marketing avenue, which is really rare now.
Don't even, no ads, no nothing. Even though I will say, my Kids Rock Instagram ads, I spent $30 on one the other day. It's still got $10 left on it. I've got I had 24 visits so far to the landing page. Right. So I'm at like 60 cents per visit on the landing page. That's like nothing. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if I spend $30 and one person signs up, I'm like tripling my money, or, way more than that. So here's one other super fast little Instagram. This one is just kind of tiny, but I noticed it yesterday and it made me think about it. So again, on my Highway 62 podcast page, on the Instagram account, one of the ways, when I started that and I wanted to build the Instagram account to, to get listens to the podcast, I started following all these other businesses or people out in the area. Right. Okay. So how when you follow someone, then it gives you suggestions of who to follow. So let's say I'll be like, oh, here's a cool vintage store in Joshua Tree. Boom. I'll follow it. And then it gives me these suggestions. I'll go through those suggestions. Some of them, the logo in the suggestion, I know exactly what they do. Right. Because the logo said Sam Reddy's Music School. And I'm like, follow.
Yeah.
Other ones don't say what it is. And I'm like, I got to check the account now. I got to look at it. Okay. So that's a tiny little thing. But from an Instagram standpoint, make sure if they see your logo show up in any kind of feed or in suggested or accounts that they can look right at it and go, oh, that's a yoga studio.
Yeah.
That's a record store. That's a music school. Don't just have it be all fancy with some name that's like, Cosmic Reality. And then it doesn't say like what it does. And I'm like, well, what do these guys do? Oh, okay. Yep. They do crystal healing and drum circles, just go ahead and say crystal healing and drum circles, make it easy for me.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yeah. I think some people get a bit too creative where it is just, especially with that kind of thing where it's like the person who's viewing it isn't going to waste any of their time clicking deeper. It's just, if it doesn't say what it is, they're probably not going to follow you. So,
So
just make it. I agree with that.
I know that's a tiny little one, but it was just something I thought about because I do a lot of that with that Instagram account as I'm building that thing out there. And I'm always like, God, some of these I just boom, 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 boom. And then so many of the other ones, I'm like, it gets tiring. So
absolutely.
That's all I got. I hope people could pick up some tips in there.
No, this is brilliant. This is exactly the kind of stuff that I spend my days preaching. So I know you guys are on the same wavelength as us with this sort of stuff. And I've everyone who's here, and this is recorded. So if you're watching this in the future, in the description will be all the links. And stuff.
A couple of plugs, if I may.
That's what I was going to say.
Please check out the Online Music Lesson Business Academy podcast. And
link again,
in addition to that, I am doing marketing for other businesses. I've started, I really want to actually branch out from the music, lesson thing. So I've started to do a little bit of work for some businesses out by me in Joshua Tree. And, I'm managing people's Google Ads accounts. I've even created some Instagram reels for people. You can go to smallbusinessrealmarketing.com. There's a little form there, and I'll do like a free marketing consultation with you if you just want me to look at stuff, or you just want to say, here's what's going on with my business. What do you suggest? And I had started a podcast under that name as well. I'm kind of revamping it, but that will be a podcast soon if you want to just listen into that. And, my whole idea with that marketing company is when I look up like, hey, I need a firm to do small business marketing for me. They're like, yeah, it's a $3,000 a month retainer, and you got to spend $3,000 minimum on your ads. And I'm like, I can't do that. And I couldn't do that when I had 500 students at my school.
Right.
And I know that most schools don't get to that size. So I was like, there's got to be a way to do this for a true small business owner. You've got 1 to 15 employees, you do $1 million in gross sales or less, or 2 million, somewhere in that ballpark that, you could get some support and help. I love marketing. Right. And what made me think about this was, again, I'm driving around in Joshua Tree and there's all these really cool, like little boutique motels. And I was like, man, it'd be cool to own one of those, and then I start thinking, I go, wait a minute. Would I really want to I don't want to be there every day. What am I going to do? Fold towels and check in guests? I'll hate that. What I was excited about is here's how I would market it. That's what I was like, this is what I would do. I'd make, a whole YouTube channel about, interesting stories from the area, or I'd do a podcast all about Joshua Tree to, that's about my hotel, that has my hotel as a sponsor, whatever. And so that's what made me think about I should just do marketing for, that's what I really get excited about. So that's kind of the impetus there for, starting that business. So you can go to smallbusinessrealmarketing.com, fill out the form. We can do a free consultation if you want to chat about any marketing stuff. I love it. I always go over time. I always give people more than what they paid for when it comes to that stuff. A
little bit like music demos. They're supposed to be 30 minutes. I don't think I've ever done a 30-minute demo in my life.
You get excited and you're like, let me show you this. And then I just, I enjoy talking. I enjoy talking about that stuff.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm sorry. You have to go now.
So
yeah.
Right on.
No,
all right.
This is fantastic. I've posted the links here and I'll put them in the description as well. There's the podcast, there's the marketing, there's the YouTube, there's the products. To jot some of this stuff down. The recording will go up on YouTube and on the Musi website. so everyone can check it out. But reach out to Danny. I mean, he's literally an expert in this stuff, and Brian as well. So thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
My pleasure.
Really,
I love it, man. I love what you're doing, and I'm always here to support.
Yeah, you too. It's
All right.
great. Awesome.
See you guys. Thank
All
you.
right, talk to y'all soon. Bye.